Thank you so much for being here. I am delighted to have this conversation with my sister. I am so, I really am. I am looking forward to this conversation. And I have to tell you, I think this is the topic of the day. Whether you're in philanthropy, whether you're an entrepreneur, I think this book, where's the book?
This is the book.
Hold it up, girl. I think this book, I really think this book is everything.
Thank you.
I thank you for writing it. I'm Bithiah Carter. I'm with New England Blacks in Philanthropy. And our goal is to inform, reform, and transform philanthropy. And I think this book kind of personifies that we focus on our assets and not our deficits. And I am so happy, Jessica. Miss Norwood, to be here with you. So for those that may not know her, I would like you to kind of share a little bit about you and how you even got to this concept, especially this beautiful story about your mama.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I might read a little bit of it for folks because y'all haven't really read it yet. So I might read a little bit, but about my mama. But so I'm Jessica Norwood. I'm the founder of Runway, and it's an incredible Runway team here. Round of applause, Runway folks. And we have the real privilege and honor to support other Black and brown entrepreneurs in Oakland and in the Boston area, soon Chicago, and soon my home state of Alabama, which I'm also really thrilled to be able to do. Yeah. It's one of those like sweet homecoming stories of, going off and doing all of this work. And then I would always say to everybody at Runway, they can almost quote it now. If it doesn't work in Alabama, then I don't believe it really works. So they're excited to not hear me say that anymore and to give this a chance. And I'm like a lot of folks here in the room. How many people are business owners who have a business with consultancy? You got an LLC somewhere, whether you working it or not, you just put one together. Okay. So there are a lot of people here who are in business, and I think that the idea of this is something that will resonate with all of us. And even if we're not personally in business, if you've ever started something, if you are moving and trying to be imaginative and creative in the United States of America, this is a book you want to really dig into, because I think that there's something for everybody here. So
I really do believe there's something for everyone, because whether you are starting a nonprofit, whether you are starting even your family, right? How are we talking about belief in us, right? As a concept. So I do want to hear, your beginnings are kind of interesting, right? You're at the knee of your mom. You're watching her do her thing. And I think there's some beautiful excerpts in the very beginning. Can we start there?
Yeah, let's start there. So I'm going to do a little setup here. The starting part of this book and this journey is really where things sort of changed for me in my life. And I'm talking about what it meant to watch my mom as an entrepreneur. And I'm looking at friends in the audience who have children. And so your kids will be looking at you and your entrepreneurial journey. And oh my goodness, the things they're going to notice and learn about what it takes to build something off and get it up off the ground. And they're going to learn a lot about resiliency from you. They're going to learn about how to move in the business world from you, even as young people. And so I was noticing these same things with my mother. And she, in the 90s, is a brilliant woman and is in the technology space. And so she's creating an education technology company. And this is at the same time where there are a lot of folks who are in the dot-com bubble. You remember that language? They're in the dot-com space. And so she would be in that universe of creating a tech company and in that time period. But the outcome for my mother is not going to be some of the same of some of the folks who, make all of this money in the dot-com, didn't actually create anything, but make all this money. And then the bubble happens and it bursts and everybody's like, oh my gosh, we just did all these valuations and all this stuff, but nobody made anything. And oh, well, oops, right? And so my mother, though, would not be a part of that. So this is where this conversation gets set up. And I'll just read this portion to you. My mother had a beautiful office in downtown Chicago on Michigan Avenue and a growing list of impressive clients. But none of that mattered in the financial world. She wasn't going to get the capital, support, or visibility she needed to succeed simply because she wasn't a part of the favored demographic. Seeing my mom unable to access the capital she needed planted the seed for what became my life's work. Runway, the financial innovation firm I founded in 2017, is where I carry out my commitment to transform investing practices and provide Black companies with the kind of capital people like my mom need, the kind of money that demonstrates belief in Black founders and a commitment to their success. 2 weeks after Runway's soft launch, Mom called me with devastating news, a call no one ever wants to get. She had pancreatic cancer. I immediately put everything related to Runway on hold for the following year. I didn't know if the momentum I had been building for the company would still be there in a year's time, but I knew that I had to spend that time with my mom. I made the right decision. My mom died 11 months later. The night she died, I was cuddled up with her on the sofa, and she laid in my arms as if I were the safest place in the world. She had moved to hospice care and was barely eating or sleeping, but in my arms she rested deeply. My mom was like many of us. She started her business because she wanted freedom and flexibility that she couldn't get working for someone else. But the problem is that Black founders are just as likely to encounter the glass ceiling on their entrepreneurship journey as they are inside of an office. Most of the founders I talk to want a relationship with capital providers who know their background, who are understanding and willing to relate to them. They don't all want to go public or have some unrecognizable size. They're in business because they love what they do and they want to affect change and they want to build generational wealth. On her final day, Mom asked me to get her purse. She pulled out a note she had written. "What's this?" I asked. A list of names and amounts of money were written in her handwriting. And she responded with clear instructions saying, "Go into my bank account and refund my customers." It was still important for her to take care of her business. She then looked at me and said, "Jess, there is so much I want to tell you." I imagined that it would be about who need to be paid back, but she said, "I want you to know that love is all that matters. It is the most important thing in the world, and we take it for granted sometimes, but it's truly what matters." Mom's last words shifted me deeply. Why would she use her last breath to tell me about love? Was love that important? Her words pulled me into a universe of possibilities where love was at the center of everything. How my mom cared for her customers, that was love too. And soon a question began to settle in my heart and became my North Star. What would it look like if the economy loved Black people? Believing you money is my answer.
I just had to hold your hand for a moment because, as someone who's in that club too, you never know how those words are going to hit you.
Yeah.
And you never know, what memory will hit you as you're reading that. But I want to stick with that place of love, right? One of my mentors, I'm sure many people in this room, Mel King, would say, "Love's the answer, now what's the question?" Right? And often that is never discussed in finance. And that we're having that kind of conversation here is kind of amazing. And so I'm glad you shared that. Like, who are you? And where is love in believe you money? Yeah. What does that even mean?
Yeah. It's interesting. We spoke about love yesterday. If whoever was here earlier, I had a conversation with Conda Mason, and she started talking about love, and I was nudge her and say, "Girl, don't give my whole book away." But it's that part or that ingredient that separates us from the extraction. It separates us from the exploitation. When you are anchoring from a place of sincere generosity and love and compassion, you orient everything that you're doing from somewhere else. And in the book, I do unpack this more, and I talk about bell hooks, right? Because every time you talk about love, you got to go there. And that love being a verb, that it is about action, it is about a movement. And so the idea is that the money that we put out needs to feel like that kind of deep love, particularly in the beginning. But I would say throughout the course of the experience, it should feel loving. It should feel like there's somebody that you can talk to. You know, if you put this, if we make a deal with you, then I want you to feel like, okay, we're doing this because we not only just we support each other, but that there is a care and a responsibility and a love. And I don't mean just romantic love. I mean, I love you as a human being.
Agape.
Agape. I want to see you succeed. And I know that your success is linked to my success. So loving you is about loving me. It is this sort of universal connected relationship that I'm talking about. And it absolutely should be in finance. Finance, well, I love when Oscar says it's not a thing, right? We're doing something, but we're talking about the money and the energy that we have put out. That money has all of our energy stored into it. And so I want to see that movement be responsive and in relationship to the love, to the community, to the people. And so the idea around that is to make it actionable, right?
But you know what you're saying is biblical,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Because where your treasure, right, that's where your heart is.
That's where your heart is.
So that belief piece is there.
Yeah.
Wherever that money is. And I love the way how you moved it in that direction, because I think many people see it as the opposite. Like, I'm going to give you money. I don't love you. I'm a lord over you.
Right, right. And that's what we're trying to break apart.
Say more about that.
Yeah, that's the part that the idea is that we will preference the capital holder, the person who has the money. They're the most important in the whole storyline.
But that's not a partnership.
And that's not a partnership. That certainly is not love. That certainly isn't respect and care. That is power over, right? That's about power. That's about, ego and all these other things. But it certainly isn't about love. And so when we start to slow things down and start to ask ourselves, okay, am I coming at this from a place of genuine love, curiosity, relationship? Then I start to be able to imagine a whole new process of systems. So instead of just saying, well, all right, I've given you the money, and in the idea of business, we'll imagine that business is over here and love and everything is over here, that they're not the same worlds at all. But what we're saying is, in fact, it is the same, and it must be the same, because what I'm creating, my business, is out of my love.
That's right.
Right? What I'm doing here is out of my, so it has to match that point. We can't turn it into sort of a commodification of like, all right, we have a business, it's an asset class, I'm making my money, and then we're going on. No, we're missing the whole point. And particularly when we're talking about vulnerable communities, when we're talking about Black communities who have been historically marginalized, you can't do the same old things and then expect a different result. So we'll say, oh yeah, we should make sure that we support Black businesses. And the reason that those Black businesses are not supported is because you've been doing this way. So it's not just an idea of saying we should do. Which one of us is? Is that me? Okay. We should be thinking more about this place of capitalization that is responsive to the historical pieces that our entrepreneurs have gone through, and not just saying, okay, well, we're gonna do something with Black folks, but then you don't change any of your practices, any of your behaviors, any of your beliefs.
You're using some words.
Okay.
Words.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, capital, capitalization, investment, these are all words that are used in the jargon of finance.
Yeah.
And, when we talk about this more radical way of being, how are you defining, because I'm not trying to give away the book, because y'all really should read this book. And you talk about being anti-capitalist, but can you talk about, so that people, when they're reading this book, really understand you're not only redefining, but helping to reshape what these words mean in relationship to us. Can you talk, like, these words you're using are the same words that the other people use?
Right. I think you mentioned this when we were prepping for our call too. So, and I don't know.
Because they're the same words.
They're the same words. And I think that they have a very different meaning for us. And that's the part that I really want to pull out. Because, okay, so we're in Black space. And let me just say that how we think about our money and our business is not the dominant narrative of how folks think about your money and business. And what happens is that when we're talking about our businesses and we're using some of the same words, people are imagining that we're talking about the same exact thing. No, we are not. What I want to do with my business and what growth means for me is about hiring community, stabilization of my neighborhood, power building. I'm thinking of a whole bunch of other things. I am not thinking about, let me go and let me get my seed round of money and my next round of money and then sell it. That's not the narrative that we're all coming from. And so I think it's important for us to talk about money the way that we talk about it, not imagining that we have to fit our words into or our narrative into somebody else. So I'm using some of these words, but I'm going to define it very differently for you. And I'm going to say that this is really rooted in more of an Afrocentric, indigenous idea about what community and relationship to your resources are. Yes, you have money. And let me say this. We have been in business. We've been doing trading. We've had debt. I think Oscar was talking about tablets that were etched on in the other session. These things have existed forever. That is your business. You, as Black folks, are not separate from those conversations. What you are separate from is extraction. What you are separate from is exploitation. And so it's important for us to claim language and words that fit us. I tell everybody you're an investor. And they say, no, an investor is ultra high net worth public. You are an investor. Every time you go out and you put money and resource and time into something you care about and you want to see a return, and that could be money, resource, time, you've invested. You're an investor. Now I want you to act like an investor. That's what this book is about. For you to hold and claim your power in the conversation. You're not powerless. You are powerful. And how you see the world is the medicine that the world really needs right now. So the more that we talk about resourcing and our relationship to money, we talk about love. I can't wait for you to go to your investor and say, is this believing you money? Does it love me? I want their faces to just drop. And like, well, what do you, because it changes the paradigm in that moment. Now you have to be differently responsive, right, to who you are and what you care about. And that's the invitation here with the language, is to play with it and turn it to your advantage. So you can sit in a room and you can talk about, yes, here's the capital we need, and this is what, but then you can also say, is it loving? And wait for the response. Don't feel the air. Because sometimes we like to do that when we get nervous about what we just said. We want to fill it up, fill the space up. Yes, I'd love to work with you, and I'd love to learn more about your investment. Would you characterize it as a loving investment? And then be silent and let them respond and go to work on your behalf. You have something to offer just like they have. And this is what we're saying about a partnership. We want to balance that equation out, but that equation doesn't get balanced until you step in with your power. And your power is your ancestry, your lineage, watching your mother, your father, your family members and what they did. That's your power. And you bring that to the table, and then you will change the table.
So, I want to think about this for a moment. I'm curious to know in the audience, who has actually given, according to this definition, believing you money? Raise your hand. You've given other people believing. Raise your hand high.
What raise it up? Ooh.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Who has received believing you money?
Oh. Whoa.
We are in a blessed room.
It's a blessed room.
Right?
It's a blessed room.
Because not many of us get that.
Not many people get it, yeah. But when you get it, it is extraordinary. And when you give it, it is even more extraordinary. Right?
Is it me?
Who is interfering?
The devil.
Oh.
They don't want to hear nothing about this. Believe in you.
They don't want this to happen.
They don't want us to believe in us.
Okay.
And you know, I'm going to talk about this from a business, but also when some of us even start nonprofits. Like we have something in Boston that's very, I told you I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring this up. Okay. We have something in Boston going on that's very visible. Ibram Kendi received a lot of money. Everybody said, Yep, all the Boston people definitely said, There's one of them like, Okay. And I think he thought, he received a lot of money. I think he thought he was getting believe in you money. And Brother Man was getting that extraction money. Because what happened, and this is very interesting, and I was talking to my husband about this when I was driving here. So he's out there talking about how not to be, how to not be anti-racist, how to be anti-racist, how to be, how to combat anti-blackness. And he's getting money, and he's thinking, okay, I'm gonna put this into place, I'm gonna put that into place, and I'm reading this, and then when you see him in the paper, they're like, oh, you got $50 million. What did you do? As in, what did we extract from you? What did you do? Where did this go? What are your outcomes? And I think we have to be careful in how we're taking money. Yeah. And ensuring that, and believe in you money happens everywhere. It happens for white people all the time. Yeah. It's that one. He's a good guy. Right. Let's give him some money.
That's right. Over and over and over again.
What's he doing? I don't know, but I believe in him.
Right. Totally. And that's the full sentence. That's a full thought at that point. Right?
It's done.
Yeah, it's done. There's a place where the believe in you money is money that is meant to create more spaciousness.
That's my point.
It is meant to give you the time, the ability to think, to pivot, to dream, and
to see things
differently. And anything else beyond that is again about power, is about ego, is about all this other stuff inside of it. So if you are truly believing you money, you are agreeing with the people who you're in partnership and giving the money to around, well, what do we want to know after this? How does that feel for you? And you're checking in and you're in conversation and community. There's nothing wrong with being in community with your financial, providers or capital providers. But the idea that we have paid you to do something and we expect an outcome, they don't even know what the outcome really is. That's the part that's so goofy about it. Like, you didn't even come to that man. You didn't know anything about anti-racist work until he showed up on the scene. And now you've got this made up imaginary thing that's meant to keep folks in their place and keep people small and to keep it contained, right? Power over. And what we're asking for really is space, time to pivot, time to learn, give us grace, give us more compassion, all of those that's what real believing you money is going to do.
But here's my question in this. So if I'm sitting in the seat, right, and you're my funder. Yeah. You're the bank, and I'm here, and I'm trying to get this believe in you money. What's my narrative? Because as I'm sitting in this chair, how do I help you understand that we're in a partnership? What's my narrative to help move this so that we both can see the beauty of believe in you money?
Yeah. I think the onus of this work it's on both sides of the coin. One, for the person who is seeking the capital to know that that's a possibility for them.
Ooh, say more.
Yeah, to know that believing you money, to know that a more compassionate, more highly relational capital is available in the world, that there are other people who are getting that. You just not getting it. And now I need you to know that you should get it. And so for you to know that, to step into that and to ask for that is a powerful thing in the table. For the other side of the conversation, it's for the folks who are providers of that capital to be constantly checking in of
what is at risk if I don't do this? If I don't put this money out to you and support your work, what am I risking by not doing this? And a lot of times we will say that the risk is that the capital won't be returned, that the risk is reputational. So if I give you this money, then you might go off and jet around the world and didn't do any of the things, and now my reputation looks bad because so on the person who's giving the money or investing the money, they have all these other ideas about like, oh, it's too risky. I don't know what your track record is. I don't know this and this. But they have to tap into, but what happens if I don't give you this money? What happens in the world? Right? What am I losing out on? What are we losing out on if I don't invest in you? And that becomes a different framing and a different question for them to have to hold and grapple with as well. Some people do it better than others. But I think it starts in that place with them having a grounding around, why are you in this? Because if you're in this to make more money on the capital, then do you need to make more money off of people who have been historically marginalized and exploited? Because it's just a question that I would ask. Right? Right. Right.
And you got to ask that
question.
Yeah.
Like, do we need to do that? Yeah.
Do I even want to know you?
Do I even want to know you? And for the folks who I know it feels, this is often what I see with some of our entrepreneurs and companies that we work with, is that we walk in strong, we have our values, and then we sit at the table about money, and then we act like we can't negotiate those values or into that conversation. It's like you're meant to take the exploitative capital because that's all I'm ever going to get.
I told you.
I'm telling you.
Listen,
I mean, who are all of these people?
Claim this believe in you money. We're claiming this because whatever
is going on, right.
I think.
Oh my goodness.
I am going to open it up to the audience, and this is not a lecture. This is really a dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to talk to my friend first.
Yes.
And then I'm going to invite y'all to talk to my friend. But you know what's fascinating? There are two things in the book. I'm not going to give away the book, but two things in the book that you talk about that I think is at the heart. Well, three things. Love, right?
Yes.
And love then makes you worthy.
Yes.
And you talk about being worthy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So worthy is part of my ability that if I'm the entrepreneur sitting across from you, that helps me, I think, be able to talk to you. Talk more about how you see worthy in the book.
Yeah, there's a. You
didn't know I got that far, did you?
Listen, you did real good. Worthiness. I think
we are worthy.
We are worthy, and it is, our worthiness does not come from what we produce. It does not come from who you know. You are born into your worthiness. Your ancestors, the people who loved you and created this world for you to step into, good or bad, they loved you enough and thought you were worthy of every good thing that can happen. That's your baseline.
Okay, we're going to give ourselves a hand clap because we are worthy people, and you need to hear that one more time.
You are worthy. You are worthy of every beautiful opportunity and blessing that can come your way. You don't have to be or do anything else. You don't have to be and do anything else. As a matter of fact, I want you to show up real cute and very clear about this all the time. Always be cute and be very clear about this, because when you step into the room, the way that I want you to stand and position yourself is from that worthiness. Conda said yesterday that we are the moral compass for this country and for this world. You have always been that. The way that we correct what is going on requires your participation, and it requires you to know that you are worthy. And the reason that it feels like you're not has been intentional. It's been intentional to drive you down, to push you down, and to make you not ask for what is righteously yours to ask for. Why can't you ask for somebody to treat you good when they give you some money for your business? It seems like the most silliest thing that we would be like, well, can we ask that, or should we? Of course, you should be asking for that and expecting. You should ask for it and expect it in every relationship, quite honestly. Everywhere. No period in time that you should take anything less than something that honors you and helps uplift you and make you a better human being in the world. That's it.
And the
That's a whole book.
And that is a whole book. It really is. But I like that being in the book because you have put your blood, sweat, tears, time, talent, treasure into your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you let somebody disrespect
Why
your
would you let
baby?
somebody disrespect your baby like this? And people are up in here disrespectful. They are disrespectful. Some of these terms that folks, listen, I was talking to this one sister and she had a deal, purchase order. She was looking for like a purchase order loan. And she had a big contract with CVS. And she needed about $10,000 for the month just to be able to do some of the packaging, fulfillment, and just kind of get everything ready. And this was a quick turnaround. Like she needed this money fast. And she went to someone who she thought was a friend and said, this is what I needed. And this person charged her 25% on $10,000 for 30 days. And I was like, you could have called me. I just would have gave it to you and told you hold on to it. Like, why did we need to do that to each other? And that sister said to me, first of all, it was scary and heartbreaking because she didn't have anywhere else to go. She needed to take that money to try to meet the demands of that contract. And now the woman who gave this money or did this money, she's all over Essence and everything else promoting that she's worked with this Black-owned brand.
Stop yourself.
Oh, it's I'm telling you, it's not cute in these streets. That's why I had to stop and write the book. I really did. Because after George Floyd is murdered and we were all inside of our deepest heartbreaks, there's this moment where everybody says, George Floyd is murdered. Let's support Black businesses. And I'm like, wait, what? How we get to? And if you in the book, I talk about what the history has been around using capitalism as a way of squashing Black movement and political work, right? And so this comes up, and it comes up with
read that part?
It comes up with vengeance at this point, right? And so everybody is making these commitments. I think they've made $60 billion in commitments. Does somebody know how much has actually gone out on the streets? Like 300 million maybe or something out of billions.
Not a billion.
It's not even 1 billion yet. Okay.
Out of the 60.
Out of the 60. But they put Black squares up on their Instagram. You remember this part? And in the pandemic, right now, remember in the pandemic, we're supposed to be shelter in place. So you're saying that the Black entrepreneur needs to get up and find staff to come to work in a pandemic to fulfill the orders because they believe that this is the only moment in time that somebody will give a damn about what I'm doing in my business. So they're working harder than ever in a pandemic inside of their deepest heartbreak. And I said, my God, they don't love none of y'all up in here. That was theater, and it was horrible theater. And so I said, all right, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to write down every single lesson I have learned about how to do this and how to do it with a level of dignity, love, and respect. And I pray somebody give it to any of these CEOs or whoever it was who said, just give them the book. You don't have to say anything. Just drop it off. Just drop the book off. I hope to see books dropped off everywhere, just all over the place, because there's no way that we can say that we care about the innovation of Black people. And that's what they were saying, that we care about Black communities and the disinvestment. That's what they were saying in that moment, and do something like that to one another. It was not the right time. It was not the right place. It was not the right conditions. And it was adding more trauma and more trauma. I don't care if you felt real cute and good about the work that you put out in that moment in time. Anything other than rest and compassion and just cash was nothing. It meant nothing.
It meant something.
No, it didn't mean.
It meant you were on a different plantation.
It meant you were. That's what it said.
It told you.
That's what it said. That's what it said.
And I'm going to tell you why I think, and again, please come to this conversation. I don't know. How are we going to do this?
We can do a
stand up when you want to talk. How do you want to do it?
We're gonna pepper in questions inside of it. Okay,
questions.
all right.
Because my question to that I thought is fascinating, and I hadn't thought about this until you said it. Then when the moment became clear, like now, that our businesses can grow. Now Edward Bloom said, "Oh, you better not give any money to Black people, because I'm gonna sue you."
I'm gonna sue you. Yeah.
So now we are sitting here in this space where we should be flourishing and not. So what can we do as UGMA? One of the things I think UGMA is providing, this kind of believe in me space.
Yes.
Whether we get to come together and talk to each other, we get to share ideas, we get the book, sign up for the book, we get the book. What else, how do we keep this believe in me, believe in you, I love you, you love me, energy going in a time like now?
This is where we have to really double down on it. I was talking to some of our investors, and they were asking, what is Runway doing?
Does everyone know what Runway is?
Yeah. So Runway is a financial innovation firm and a fund that is investing in Black and brown entrepreneurs, and we can go from $5,000 to $250,000 in investment. And we focus in, we are focusing in and really trying very deeply to do reparative capital. And we are trying to repair the extractive capital that's happened in Black communities, and the disposability of Black bodies, which is also a commodification of those bodies that created a lot of wealth. So we're attempting to put kinds of capital into people's hands, not because we believe that necessarily the business itself is going to change that, but it really is about the practice, behaviors, belief, and attitude that we're practicing. Like, what I want to see is people to understand this is how you put money into people's, in businesses' hands more thoughtfully. And I want to see more of our entrepreneurs politicized around the same subject. So we are thinking about how we grow a network and a community that's thinking of believing you money and more patient, long-term, anti-racist capital. So that's Runway. In this particular conversation that we were having about what is Runway doing in the face of the lawsuits, I think people have heard about Fearless Fund, and after the affirmative action case in Supreme Court, then the next lawsuit is to try to take down and stop you from using race-based or prioritizing particularly Black businesses. There's an intersecting point that has to do with that it's about women that I don't want to lose, and I want you to also remember this, because it's born out of a context where the Black women in this country got your presidency, right? The Black women organized to get Biden, Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, Obama, the Supreme Court Justice. Black women organized to make those things happen. And so everybody behind the scenes knows it was Black women.
They wrote articles about it.
Wrote articles. So this is also an attack on Black women's leadership, as well as to stop us from being able to do $20,000 grant programs to Black women. But what I said is, if this, we're going to do our best to navigate all of this and try to be, as we want to be compliant legally and everything. But we have a bigger problem on our hands. That's not just a Runway problem. You have a field problem, and this is not about just the Black folk. Everybody in this country is impacted by race and racism and racial bias and discrimination, every single person. So this is an every single person issue. And what I think about this is, who are we entrusting to solve the problems of today, like climate? Who gets to decide what the composition and the look and makeup of our buildings and our city looks like, right? There's a lot, billions, trillions of dollars in climate retrofitting of buildings, and all these things are going to happen. If you're not invested in, guess who won't get the contracts? Guess who won't be making the world that the next season of our lives, that won't feel Black. You won't have safe space. You won't feel comfortable. None of that will be possible if we don't get in front of this now and say, you must name and say that I am going to put the dollars and the resources into the people who are most impacted by the things that are happening in their communities. And we want to put the resources into the people whose vision will love Black folks. I want to see a world that loves Black people. I don't currently feel I live in a world that loves Black folks. And so okay, so how am I going to solve that? Well, I'm going to invest in the people who do love Black people. And so when you see a target against doing that, what we're really saying is, let's prioritize everybody who ain't Black or brown, because there's a spectrum. Blackness, right, is about brownness. Sorry, y'all didn't know. It's about everybody, right? Everybody who's not dominant, not white. That's what that's about. And so we're going to have a world where we don't have the innovators of tomorrow resource to be able to solve the problems that we face today when we don't do that.
And we need to think about that in our businesses. Questions?
Right. If you have a question, raise your hand.
And you can come line up here for the questions.
Oh, I'm going to walk around the open. I guess you're going to be it. Okay. You're cute. He was like, yes, I know. I am.
I don't really have a question. I just have a comment about the opportunity that I have to working with Blacks in Green in Chicago around the EPA Technical Assistance Center. So the government is investing $10 million through these technical assistance centers for 5 years. And so we have I'm part of Region 5. So each region has a TIC-TAC. Then they have national TIC-TACs. And so we are cultivating a team which is unique for the nation of Black leadership, building a sustainable square mile model and support for businesses, nonprofits, and organizations to get access to maybe all the departments in the government. Yeah. So we're being really intentional about how we structure this, built by us for everybody, but for us specifically around creating these spaces in Black communities that get at whole systems problems, whole system solutions, and does have an economic base to it to cultivate businesses and look at household income as a measure. So you could look for those. That's just something that is a big investment, but we have to leverage that investment because it's only someone told us you had about 3 years to get this together. It's a 5-year, but thinking strategically about building this out over 3 years so we could leverage the billions of dollars, she called the Biden billions, billions of dollars that's going to be placed in our hands because we're frontline. I'm from Cleveland Environmental Health Watch.
I'm from Cleveland too. Hi. But you know what? It's all us Cleveland people. You know what I love about what you said? There was a vision there.
Yeah.
And when you have a partnership, and I think that's something that I hadn't really thought about on that other side, that I don't like calling them religious because they're not, and they sure ain't right. So, but that side, they had a collective vision of how they were going to use federal, state, and local dollars. And we're going to have this collective vision, and then you're going to act out your part. Yeah. And I think we need to have more spaces like this. I don't care what town it's in, that we are having a collective vision, some believe in you money, you know, and think about how do we then do our parts to work this out. And which leads me to think about, if we have this sort of higher vision and then trust, because you got to trust each other, right? What are the characteristics of believe in you money that can support that? Or is it too early to even ask that?
You know, I think one of the things that's really important about this shared vision, collective sort of organizing work, that we like to skip over, and particularly when we're thinking of what is investable, we forget about all of the work that it takes to get an investable idea up off the ground.
Okay, let's talk about
And
that.
so there's a lot of relationship building. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of work that it takes to really nurture the coming together of an idea and something that can be beneficial to the entire community and build wealth for everyone. And so that needs investment. That needs believing you money. That needs early money. It needs, money that is, gift capital, right? Just money to just be together, think about it, work on it. And you need to do that. And then when you did it one time, you should do it again and again and again. That should just be a part of it. What folks tend to do, particularly capital providers, is they like to skip over that part and then go downstream and then let me get it when it's ready to go. And then they're always like, but why don't we have an investment pipeline? And I'm like, did you invest in it? Because if you didn't invest in that pipeline, you won't have anything to work with at this point.
Right.
So it is really important to focus in on those early rounds of resourcing to support that. And then at that point, I really like to ask people, when we are in community and we are in relationship together, don't go anywhere else. Now, at this point, we're going to stick together. Let me provide the next tranche of capital. Let me do the next piece. Because every single time I have tried to let folks go and be like, okay, butterfly, fly out there, they end up going to meet somebody who is crazy with the money and it just turns badly all over again. So I'm like, darn it, so come on back, butterfly. We got to do this together. So I would say it is in the part of the planning with the environmental dollars, the planning work is important. I'm glad the investment is there, and the idea is that once that 5 year or 3 years is done, that these will be investable kinds of projects and ideas. And I think that's a great model, and I think it should keep happening over and over and over and over again. And that's the problem. We tend to get really episodic with something. We do it one time, and it's like, yay! And then we don't do it again, and we have to keep doing it over and over again to really get to it.
I'm so happy you said that, because I think we all get into the clouds about we're going to have a shared thing. But how do you share anything?
Right. And when you don't have the resource to begin with, you are in your own trauma, you are tired and worn out because you're running over here and you're doing this. How can we build something together if I don't have the full spaciousness to be in good relationship to you? So then then
I don't even trust you.
Then I don't even trust you. And now, right. And now we're just done. Now I fell apart, right? Did you see how it comes together?
Butterfly.
Right, and the butterfly flew away. Yes.
All right. So my question is specifically about the personal to build the business. Is it a viable model to build the person so they then don't need you, aka build their personal credit, build their personal life, so that when it's time to obtain a loan, they don't have to ask, they're already qualified. Therefore, you never have to keep reinvesting. If you reinvest in the person originally, build their credit, their income, their debt to income ratio, they'll never have to ask anyone in any of these rooms again, because they're equipped after 2 years of you investing in them personally, which usually is around the number we talked about in another room, which is like $70K annually. So 140, and I'm qualified to do whatever I feel like I need to do in my business, opposed to asking each time.
Yeah. At that point, you can now be qualified to be an investor, and then I want you to invest in somebody else. So if you don't need my investment capital, you go and do it and invest in somebody else. But the reality is, nobody does anything alone. You will, no matter how big you get, you will still have team members, staff, you will have financiers. If you continue to grow your business, you're going to require more capital to continue to grow. And at a certain point in time, using your own personal finances won't make a lot of sense for your business's growth. So, ultimately, you will probably still be in some relationship with some financial, partnership and so forth. which is great and good. And if you can get it to the kind of financing that you know works for you, even better. That's how these businesses are growing to scale. And if you should find yourself where it's like, I've got my stuff all sorted out, I don't need, then it makes you a really great person to maybe put some believe in you money in somebody else, to give somebody else a start. Maybe it's that $5,000, $10,000 that helps their idea get going. And because you know how much it meant to you and what it was able to catalyze in you, you can seed that into someone else. So
that's really interesting. Cooperative business is happens everywhere. And I think it's a great model to think about. And I'm glad that you asked that question because it is that intensive investment in the beginning. But when I think about growth, even Goldman Sachs still asks for money.
Oh gosh.
Right?
Yes.
They even go to the market.
Yeah.
And I think and what I thought was great about that question and your answer, and I would like to hear just a tiny bit more. By doing that, we're starting to create our own economy.
Yes.
And you talk a little bit about that in the book, and we're going to end there. Like, how do we imagine a better economy? You're good, you're strong, you're now investing in others. What's that having of a better economy that has Black love? What's that vision?
Yeah, this economy that loves Black people. I mean, if you start to, I like to ask the question because there is no one answer for it, right? It invites our Black possibilities. It invites our imagination in to think of what is possible. And people have said to me, people aren't hungry, and it's not just Black folks that are hungry, right? People aren't hungry. Education is available. An economy that loves Black people, you are getting good housing. You are not worried about, this is what's possible for all of us. And so I might have gone off in a completely different direction.
But you can breathe.
than where you had me going. But
that's all part of the economy.
But that's all a part of the economy.
We need to think about that as part of your business. Isn't a business alone.
No,
it's in community.
It's in community. And ultimately what we're really thinking about is a shared responsibility for one another and for what we create, for what is in our communities. I mean, we all are, if you are experiencing gentrification in your community, if you're experiencing even population decline or so forth in your community, any manner of these kinds of things that could be happening, what we're thinking of in this moment is, what does it mean to challenge those things, or to put something else in place that feels like us, that sounds like us, that's responsive to our needs? And so the imagination is really centering Black folks and Black experience and Black knowledge and all of the incredible things that have come out of who we are and made us who we are, the opportunity of investing in that.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
We're going to take one final question that is going to be very quick, with a very quick answer.
Okay.
And here you go.
Hi, my name's Naima.
Hi, Naima.
I work with Runway. But actually, I wanted to ask a question that I don't think, I think you've touched on, but I would love other people to hear it, like I get to hear it from you. But this idea that we've talked about, that money is relational, our relationships to money relational. We talked about bankers and having those relationships over the last 2 days. I'm always so struck by the relationships in this room, the relationships that bring things like this together, that allow you to touch or talk to your trusted individuals about the content of your book, right? So many of those people in this room. Can you talk a little bit more about how you built that space to safely have these conversations? Because I think a lot of us are often missing the spaces to have these conversations, to have that individual, let me talk to my homegirl, my mom, my aunt, my cousin about this big dreaming I have with money and how to access money, because so many of us are still afraid of that, right? And we talk a lot about that scarcity and that fear. You are someone who is just always so fearless in these conversations, and you are fearless with your colleagues in the conversations. And so I wondered if you could just talk about how you built that for yourself, right? To create this kind of space.
Yeah. Back to my mama, back to my mama and that worthiness. I feel so incredibly blessed every single day to get the opportunity to express my love in this way. It is the highest honor of my life. And I think I've shared this with some people. You may have heard this before, but I had this dream when I was a little girl. And I was in heaven, and it was like clouds all around, and it was like a little line of people, and they were going to get their job from the angel. This is the job you're going to do when you go to earth.
Your dream was about a job?
Yes.
Okay.
It was about a job. I was like, well, I had to do something. It was about work. And I do believe work is meaningful. Jobs, not so much, but good work is good
they
work.
Gonna get their
and
angel
it was
work.
Right. And so I was going to get my angel work.
There
Okay.
you go.
And so I'm in line, and I go up to the angel who's giving out the work assignments. And this angel was at like a little bust down card table or whatever. I don't know why my dream was so hood like this, but anyway. And so the angel says, yes, my child, or whatever. You're going to do repair work. You're going to repair the things that have been broken and harm that's done in the world. And so I've lived my whole life like, I'm doing repair work. This is what the angel told me. Well, in the pandemic, the dream came back. If you ever had like a reoccurring dream, the dream came back. And this time I'm older, and now I'm like thinking to myself in a dream, you better find out what else is going on up in here, right? And so I'm ear hustling now, and I can hear the people, right? The people in front of me and the people behind me, like, what job it is? What job you getting? Kind of vibe. And so the person who goes in front of me, and I'm starting to hear, and I hear one person, two people, three people. It turns out everybody got the same job, to do repair work. And what I appreciated about the vision and the dream of that is it didn't matter if the person who harmed you could not show up for you to do the repair work. Somebody was on the job, because every single person had the same job to repair. So you're repairing, but Sharina's repairing, and Ronnie's repairing. And that means that if I've been wronged in this, and that happens, I've been wronged, somebody is going to be there to take care of me. And that looks like Tiffany, and that looks like Amaka, and that looks like Ronnie. This is how this community of folks who've come together to hold me and take care of me has shown up. They've repaired my heart, just like I'm able to do repair for other people. And that's the promise of what this is really all about. You're not by yourself. That's what Believe in You Money says. I see you. I notice you. I believe in you. I believe that there is something beautiful about what you can contribute, and I want to put something into that. I want to seed that with whatever resources I have. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's a little bit of change. Whatever it is important for me to do that. And you don't have to worry about if you're going to do it for me. I'm good. Somebody's doing it for me. That's how I know to do it for you. And I want you to do it for somebody else. And then that person is going to learn how to do it. And then they're going to do it. And by the time we finish that, we're all little angels with the job of the repair. Thank y'all.
Yes, let's give it up for Jessica Norwood and Bithiah Carter. Yes, Believe in You Money in stores, on shelves. If you did not sign up to receive a copy.